All right. We'll kick this off. Yes. So this will be the lingo book discussion, very informal. I will start it off by just talking briefly about how I know Jeffrey. I actually met Jeffrey when I was talking to Mike McAllitz's booking lady, who books all of his speaking events, and we were looking for someone to speak at an online event that we were planning on doing in January. So she gave me a list of people. Jeffrey was on the list, so I scheduled a call, talked to him, thought he was just really sweet, and liked him. From there, I was working on some of my own personal branding, not necessarily with consulting, but this new idea that I've been working on for a little while now, and I just felt myself really stuck and couldn't I knew what I want to do, but I just couldn't get the language right. And I thought, well, who can I ask? And I remembered the conversation I had with Jeffrey. So I hired Jeffrey for 2 90-minute consulting calls, and he helped me talk through what I was wanting to do. And I don't know if you were able to notice, but he's really good at, he can hone in on something in people and in a business that not a lot of people can, especially when you're the one in it. It's very hard for you to see the big picture. And so that's what he helped me do. And everything that I've done since then has been really because of Jeffrey and his ability to pinpoint the thing that I needed to be working on. So that was how I met him, and read his book, loved it. Could definitely tell that AJ Harper edited it. I don't know, Emily, if you noticed any of that, if you could kind of hear some of the same. Yeah, I could too. So whenever the Fix This Next for Healthcare comes out, if people have read Lingo, I think you'll see some similarities in there. And definitely within Mike's books too. They all have somewhat of the same readability. So I thought that was cool. All right, Emily has some questions, and we're just going to talk through those. And hopefully this will give you a bird's eye view of Lingo.
Yeah, so I'm going to start off with a super softball question, and it's just, what was your favorite part? And that could be your biggest takeaway or just a funny anecdote. But let's start there. What was your favorite part?
Kathy, you want to go? I was just thinking, as generic as it sounds, I really did like the story of the department store. And now that I've worked with AJ, I could see her really pushing him to dive deeper into that section. It also kind of gives you a indication of who Jeffrey is. Like, you know what he said yesterday? He's like, I just fit in with rich people. It's not because he thinks he's like rich and famous, but he just has a different level of appreciation for things. And I really enjoyed that part.
It's funny being one of the only ones in here. Okay, so what I like that story too a lot. I grew up amongst a lot of rich people, and I've been spending my entire adult life getting away from that culture as much as I can. And here I am running a group who I think that's who I have to market to. So that's such an irony. So it really hit me over the head that I need to stop avoiding them and start joining, or at least mentally re-engaging or understanding the groups of people that I want to cater to or work with. Happen to be that it really woke something up besides the conversation with you, Casey. But when I read that part, I'm like, oh, yep. Change the whole website, change the whole everything. Everything's changing.
I think it's pretty common. I see it a lot where, you'll see these group practice owners in these Facebook groups. You know how the Facebook groups run, and they're like, what do you do? And what do you do? And what do you do? and they think that their ideal client is something different than it actually is. And they pick that ideal client based off of, I want to have a boutique style practice, or I want to have whatever. But when you really start looking at the numbers and you're figuring out that Pareto principle that he talks about in the book, many times your market that you are trying to reach is not the one that's generating the most revenue for you. So, what about you, Emily?
Yeah, I think it's the same story that you're talking about, but a different part kind of stood out to me. The part where she's showing him how to wrap a present so that the customer can later unwrap it and like look inside and make sure that everything is like neat and exactly what they wanted. And I just thought that was like so foreign for me because I've never even considered doing that. But also just like super interesting. Like that is a detail that I would have never thought to ask in all of my gift wrapping experience. Like I would have never thought to to carefully like tape it so somebody could come back behind me and open it. And that was a really great detail.
Mm-hmm.
And the pricing, like you just a fixed menu. When he started talking about that, one like two numbers, like 35 versus 34.99 versus 35.00, that's huge too. That hit me over the head. Like, oh yeah, I know those restaurants. They scare me when I walk in them sometimes. But I know them ahead of time because they're decorated different. I mean, they attract you. You know you're going into that restaurant and what's going to happen before you see that menu. So, right.
You just have a different expectation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just have a different expectation. And also, what he was saying yesterday about my customers usually invest $5,000 a home. And I think about the pitches that I've been given by other businesses, like, like the marketing guy I'm working with.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm giving someone a price on something, it's very specific. It's like, he's like, he didn't even do that. He's like, this is 10,000, 20, and 50. And I'm like, what's each? Like, what goes in the 10 and what's the 20? And he's like, I don't know. And I could connect that because I thought, yeah, that's basically what it is. People get, when they're working with a different kind of client who they know is going to need to spend a lot of money or is willing to invest a lot of money, they're not out trying to nickel and dime. They're not breaking down every single dollar of every service.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So for my new program, instead of saying, oh, this is 5 or 10,000 and here's the whole detail of everything you get, I may not do all those details, right?
Yeah, which that kind of leads me into my next question, which is, what are some strategies you're thinking about for attracting your ideal customer? And I think that's something super interesting that we just mentioned. One of the things that we do is that value stack, like this is worth X amount of dollars, this is worth X amount of dollars, versus Justin, who was like, oh yeah, this whole package is just this, $20,000 thing.
Yeah. I think that value stack works up until a certain level. Mm-hmm. And then, because I could see the value stack working, let's say for Systemizer School, that still makes sense. For the VIP one-on-one, I don't think I'm going to do it. It just doesn't. Now, after hearing that doesn't really even make sense.
Yeah, I agree, because the kind of person who is interested in getting like the most value for their money at that point, like I don't think they're going to go for that high a price a service. Like they're going to stick somewhere around Systemizer School. So I think you're right on the money on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't think they really care how you get them there. They're focused on the outcome. Yeah. And what you're going to do to get them to that outcome. They don't necessarily need to see it broken down. They just need to know that you know what you're doing and you have a system. And, it was just like I was talking to Justin this morning about it, and I said, there's I have to be able to articulate the difference between this VIP coaching package and them being in Mindsight Partners and just using their gold calls to schedule 12 calls.
I want to know.
Well,
what's the difference?
I know what the difference is, but I just wasn't able to really articulate it. And I wrote it down, and he made a really good point. He said, when you have something in a package like the VIP coaching package, you're selling the system. You're selling the system that you know works. You're selling an outcome. Whereas if people are buying one-on-one, just one-off calls, you're selling your time. Because you can't put them through a system because it's so, it's scattered, it's not consistent, and I said, okay, that makes perfect sense. That's exactly how you explain that. So I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Same for you, Kathy, with the program that you're wanting to do. You don't need to sell your time. You need to sell the outcome.
Right.
Yeah, and I think too, people in that situation really often, they have more money than they have time. They don't have time to sit there and think about like, what are you going to do? What's your system? What's going to happen? What are the details? They just want to pay that money and be done.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why we're going to do a flat rate price somehow, and I'm going to figure out to make sure that I actually make some profit on it, but we're going to do, instead of piecemealing it.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to get an interior decorator when I go back to my office and have them really decorate it, not like what I do with my IKEA or my Wayfair, rustic things that I put up in cute little picture. No, we're going to probably have to cater a little higher end. Like an attorney's office. I've got to think like an attorney's office that's really trying to pull people in. Because that's what the attorneys are going to relate to, but that's all my personal stuff. But I've thought about that. The books made me think, okay, I got it. And then I'm going to change my website, I'm sure, but someday.
When a book makes you think, then it's done its job.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good.
Oh, I love seeing like how into this Kathy's gotten. Like she's like 12 steps ahead. I love that.
What?
It's good. You've identified like a need in your practice and you're going for it. Like
yes.
Good.
Yes.
Good. So let's go in this direction. Kathy, how do you own your space? Or to put it a different way, what are you known for? What do you want to be known for? And how are you doing that to stand out?
You mean what am I known for, or was my practice known for?
Okay.
Practice. We're known for our families and working with families and kiddos. We want to be the go-to place, but I want to add the court piece, and so that's where I want to add, is to be families, the whole spectrum, but I really want to be the go-to place. You just drop that needle and we are it. This is where you want to go to get your conjoint and court-ordered therapy. That's what we're known for. We're about to be. Mm-hmm. We're collecting people one at a time. I've got about 12 super fans right now that are just waiting to hear from me after the first of the year to tell them all about these programs, and those are attorneys.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yee-hee!
Yeah. That's good. That's
building interest.
I think people forget that. What do you want people to know you for? And then reverse engineer the whole process.
And then, of course, a super Harry Potter fan, but that was me personally. And sorry.
That's just I'm trying to sell that. That one's for free. Awesome. So one thing that Jeffrey talks about towards the end of his book, Kathy, is super consumers. I wanted to ask y'all, what are you a super consumer of? That's part one. There's part two.
Okay, Emily, you got to go first on this one. I got to think.
Yeah.
What am I a super consumer of? I am a super consumer of Apple currently. Like basically, if they put it out online, I've got the Mac, I've got the iPhone, I've got the watch, like I've got the AirPods. Like I'm just sitting here surrounded by Apple products. I'm probably a Starbucks super consumer. Like it's a weekly thing with me. It's a habit. I know exactly what I want. I know all of their lingo. I use it at other coffee shops and everybody hates me.
But they do. But
yeah.
Oh, I'm a super consumer of a lot of junk. Yeah.
You're going to love my answer. I'm a super consumer of Casey's programs.
Kathy, I need to get you a lifetime membership or something.
Thank you. That and Harry Potter. Now, anything instructional that I feel like I can see myself be, I'm never going to see myself being like you, Casey, but I mean going in that direction. Like when I saw you 2 years ago, here's like a total advertisement for you right now. I'm like, I have to work with this woman because she's going to help me do what I need to do. And everybody else I consulted with didn't seem like they knew what they were doing. And so I love, like, I won't say different names, so there's other authors and stuff I love to, like, get their books or get their material, or like the one that sends them the daily one, and I don't know if I can say things out loud, right? And things like that. I'm a super consumer of people putting me in a positive direction on my path.
Yeah, I agree. I think
And
books
here,
is, yeah.
but I love programs. Like I love the one-on-one or the going through like this. I mean, it's because there was like going to be people and stuff, and it was going to be cool talking about a book we read and talking to him or listening to him yesterday, the author. I mean, that was really awesome.
Yeah.
Or when Mike came on once, that was really awesome. So being around people that are like really successful and going in the direction that I want to go, in a direction, not exactly where all y'all want to go, but just it's I don't know.
You just want to go up.
Yep, I want to go up wherever I'm gonna go. I think I see it now. Where I'm going.
There's definitely, I mean, there's definitely power in that. I remember sitting in church, like, I don't know. Emily, did you go to the same church back in 2011? Like the first year it opened? Somerset?
Not in Somerset, but I did in London.
Okay. So I remember sitting there one day and he was talking about, what is it, the power of five, or the whatever it's called. There's a whole theory around it. And he was basically just saying, who are the five people that you are spending your most time with? Who are your five biggest influences? And I remember sitting there thinking, oh God, like one of my friends was a little boy crazy, to be nice. One was pretty much an alcoholic. One was a serial marrier. She just kept getting married and divorced over and over again. And he said something like, you're going to be the average. And I was like, oh no, no, I don't want to be the average. And I swear to you, I didn't just disown my friends, but I started finding new people, and they kind of disowned me because I didn't fit in anymore. And that was the best thing I think that ever happened to me, was trying to get myself around other people that were doing what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what got it out. I mean, that's what got me out of it.
And look where you are today. That is so awesome.
I know. I could have been married and divorced 4 more times and had a few more kids and been an alcoholic. I don't know. But that's why people would say, "Oh, you're crazy for spending money or doing things like going to the Storybrand conference or going to see Mike or signing up for masterminds." But I don't think so. I think sometimes that's an investment in moving yourself up, because when you're around other people, then
right.
Your connections then become, or their connections become your connections, and your network just continues to grow, and that's what it takes. And
right.
Yeah.
Yay.
We did it.
There you go. Back on the super consumer thing, how are you building loyalty into your business so that one day you have super consumers?
Mm-hmm.
Question. How about I answer Kathy's?
Go ahead. I want to hear what you say.
Yours.
Well, I think Kathy's super consumer. Well, we have a lot of opportunities to have those, but I think it's going to be the relationships that she builds with attorneys. I think that's the super consumer. Not to mention the the clients, but the clients aren't going to be the ones getting out there saying, oh, well, this is amazing. It's probably going to be the attorneys that are speaking your praises.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I hope so.
Kathy, have you thought about how you're going to like make these attorneys like return customers? What about this experience is going to make them come back?
I think that just doing the program and having the confidence and showing them, talking to them, they're going to see it. They already see what we're doing. We just haven't labeled it and made it all official. So I think just showing them one case. I mean, that's how I've been collecting attorneys. If they've been seeing the work that I personally do, which I'm now creating that program around. So I think just doing it is going to show them. It's not going to take much because there's nobody else doing this. So it's a very unique thing. And they're going to get excited because it's going to be something that doesn't make these cases last like a year or 2 or 3 or 5. It should help to shorten the length of them. So I think that's what's going to get them is the time.
So the attorneys value their time because the more time they have, the more cases they can take on.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But they get on these cases, their pain is they get on these cases and they can't solve them. And they're just constantly litigating and getting nowhere. And it's just this, they're uncomfortable because they can't help their clients, yet their clients get mad at them. And everyone's stuck,
Okay, there's the word. That's it. That's the pain point that you have to call forward with these attorneys is you're feeling stuck. Of course you want to help your client. Of course you want to resolve the case. But all of these things get in the way. Yeah.
One thing that he was talking about in the later chapters of the book was asking yourself, what does your ideal client want to avoid? And I love that. Like for his photography business, his example was these parents want to avoid explaining why there's more photographs of one kid than another kid. So I like that. So I think Kathy's attorneys want to avoid like being stuck in something that feels endless, can't get out of.
Yeah. And I will say, just for the record, Emily really is a good copywriter. So if you ever get stuck on wording, we now have a system, whether she realizes it or not. I need her to start it, and I can go back in there and add a few little things here and there just to make it sound more like something I would say. But, I think just getting the stuff started is the hardest part. And when you know someone's language, like these attorneys, it's much easier to start.
Yeah. I'm talking to a few I know just pre-pitch to see, and I've already gotten 2 of my friends. I consider them friends now. I've gotten them excited. They're just like, even the ones that don't know me very well, I just talk to them for like 10 minutes and they're like, let me know when this is, let me know, because there's nothing. So
Well,
yeah,
try to pick
exciting.
up their lingo, find keywords. That's what I did in Fix This Next for healthcare is I used language that only other healthcare providers would know. And in a broad book, that's a really bad thing because that leaves people feeling left out. But in something like what you're doing and in something like the book, that makes people feel like they're part of like they get you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So last question. What questions did you have about Lingo as you were reading?
Kathy, why don't you ask your question?
Oh, the one question?
Mm-hmm.
Working with attorneys, and I'm getting to know them better. I have a combination of the clientele is the attorneys because they're the referral source and they talk to the judges. And there's a chance I can get this in front of judges as well, that they'll make referrals. So how do I talk to with judges or attorneys? So I need to focus on their language. How do I talk to them, I guess? What would be some ideas about talking to them? And then reaching the clients that are attached to them. So I don't know how else to ask that other than just any lingo ideas of how to get into their world other than how I'm doing it already, which is talking to a few that are my friends, listening to their concerns and how they think it should go. That's it. That's all. You know,
That's a
that
good.
made sense.
Mm-hmm.
I know Mike would tell you if you read his first or one of his first books, The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, like, are there any places that attorneys are hanging out in California online in a virtual space?
I
Places,
think so. Yeah.
yeah, you can even like stuff as simple as searching hashtags that you're in your area for law. I mean, the legal system is just different because they're a little more closed than
Yeah.
a lot of other industries. But really thinking about where you can, what are they watching? What are they reading? What are they doing for fun? Where do they hang out? Where do they go to the gym? Like, what do they do?
Okay.
You know, here in our town, this is why I don't go out much. But all of the attorneys, they all go, there's this one bar downtown, 5 o'clock. If you ever want to find an attorney, go to this bar. They're all there.
Gosh, you said that, and I realized like a light bulb went off. There is one restaurant in my hometown, and they all go there for lunch every day without fail. You can see like they're all huddled in a clump. I know exactly where they are. Oh my god.
At my old job, that's exactly what they did. We had a mall. I was in dependency court, and we all went with them for lunch every once in a while. They went same place, had a margarita lunch, and went back into trial for the afternoon.
There you go. There you go. You
Hmm.
just got, and when you know where they are, then you can really, I'm not saying like do creepy stuff, but when when you know where they are and what they do and where they hang out, you can really start to almost profile them. You know, like you know them
Okay.
so well that speaking their language is going to become easy.
I did join the local bar association as an affiliate, so that's a beginning. I just did that.
Yep, perfect.
And I would try to use their language as much as possible. So think about like some of that legal jargon. Like you don't want to get too in over your head to the point where no one else understands what you're saying, but
Right.
saying enough that's going to clue them in, like, hey, I'm experienced, I know what I'm talking about, hey, I can speak your language, I know what you're talking about, so that they feel
Right.
you're familiar, it's comfortable then.
Right. Oh, well, I just found out that you're not supposed to use the word reunification, although the other group that I'm in competition with in the area a little bit is saying reunification, and that's a no-no in our court. And I never do. I always say conjoint. So, like things like that, I need to learn some of that lingo and then that, like the rules, the unwritten rules of court.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if you walk in a courtroom and a judge hears you say something like that, you'll get admonished or your credibility will go way down. So, yeah, I need to learn a few of those things. I am slowly.
Um, when I was seeing clients as a new therapist, I got a lot of court referrals and but not really enough to sustain my caseload. So I would go to court I think it was Friday or maybe it was Wednesday, I don't remember, but every time that it was juvenile, whatever, I would just go and I would just sit there and I would pay attention.
You should do
And
that.
I would make eye contact with the judge, and I will never forget one time I had been going for a little while, and they called me out right in the middle of a case and said, "Hey, you stand up." And they said, "Are you a therapist?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "What's your name?" And I told them, "What's your credentials?" And I told them, and they said, "Meet me in the chambers." And I thought, "Oh no, I'm in trouble." Went back
Yeah,
and
that's not in trouble. That's a nice invitation. That's
yeah,
great.
they basically said, "Hey, can we send you this case? I want you to see. You're here
Oh,
every."
wow.
So some of it, I think, is just showing up. Is just
Hmm.
it's being there and making your presence known.
I
And
used to do that as a social worker in CPS. I would go to all the courtrooms and just sit on my lunch hours. So the court could see me, but more importantly, I could understand the culture of each courtroom because they're all six of them were different. So I can do that. We're allowed to, and I've been tempted. And maybe after the first of the year, I'll start sitting in on some of these judges and get to know them a little bit. Because
Yeah.
they would ask me, but we're online. It's sort of weird. I'll be sitting there just watching. Just watching. I'll tell
There's
them.
just something about that recognition. They see your face, they see your name, they start to make connections, and it will go a long way.
Mhm.
Good idea. I forgot about that strategy.
Yep.
Yeah.
When all else fails, just show up, right?
Yes.
Say, wait for them to give you a job.
Oh goodness. Okay. Is that it, Emily?
Yep.
That was fun. That was fun. We'll post
Lots of fun.
yeah. We'll post the book summary for Lingo in the portal. Make sure that that's easy if anyone wants to hit the highlights of the book. And if you wanted to purchase the book, you can look on our bookshop link. There's a little thing you can purchase. It goes to an indie bookstore, which is the proceeds of indie goes to support local bookstores instead of big box retailers like Amazon. And then we will be posting the next book that we're going to read. I think, is it Atomic Habits? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Post them.
Fun. Thank you. This is fun.
All right, guys. I will sign off. It's good to see you, Kathy.
Good to see you
Fit in
every day.
your pants and your yeah.